I can't tell you the number of times that I've sat down with business owners and we're talking about the financial decisions that they're making on a daily basis. And we get down this conversation where they said, well, we've already invested so much, we just have to keep going. Well, that leads us right into a perfect discussion of what I refer to as the sunk cost fallacy. Just because you've invested some money in the past doesn't mean you necessarily have to invest money going forward. And understanding what sunk cost fallacy means and how to identify it will help you make sure you're making the right decisions going forward. My name is Edward Collins, and for the past 25 plus years, I've been building and scaling my own businesses and helping other business owners around the country do the exact same thing, because I'm on a mission to help them achieve financial freedom by teaching them the secrets of wealth creation, preservation, and protection. Let's jump right in. So when I'm describing the sunk cost fallacy, I like to use quite literally a ridiculous analogy. Let's assume for a moment that you and your loved ones are going to be going out for dinner at pretty much the place you love to go to dinner. It's like your go-to spot. So you spend the early part of the evening getting ready, you guys take showers, you get dressed up nice, all the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed to have a wonderful evening out together. So you get in your car and then you start driving towards your intended destination, but halfway through your journey, you learn that the restaurant of choice, your go-to spot, is closed for the night. Now imagine for a moment you sit back and you say, well, listen, we've already invested all this time, effort, and energy basically getting dressed to the nine. We've gotten in the car, we've turned the car on, we started driving in our intended direction. So we've done all of this work up until now. Let's just keep going to the restaurant we intended to go to. Now you can understand how ridiculous of an example that is, right? No one in their right mind would continue down to a destination they know to be closed. But I can't tell you the number of times that business owners do this within their business each and every year. Just because you've invested something, whether it's time, effort, energy, or financial resources in the past with regard to a particular path of action, that does not necessitate the need of continuing down that path of action if it no longer makes sense for your business. You see, the concept of this sunk cost fallacy is that just because you've invested in something, it doesn't really mean you need to continue to invest. You shouldn't throw good dollars after bad. When you're looking at your business and trying to figure out how to, one, identify whether or not you're falling victim to the sunk cost fallacy, you ask yourself this question. If I were to continue down this path, knowing that the destination was closed, should I continue to go down that path? Every single decision you're making in business, you're constantly reevaluating the new return on investment for the new dollars being put in. You can't allow the decision-making process to be outweighed by previously invested dollars, because those dollars are gone. They're already out of your pocket. They've already been invested. You will never get those specific dollars back. The only dollars that potentially you could get back are future returns on new invested dollars. So when you're evaluating whether or not to put more energy, more effort, more focus, more financial resources behind a particular decision, you should reevaluate that particular decision in the moment, not just rely on previous actions. Now, how do you do that? The best way I try to teach business owners to do it is to take a look at your profit and loss statement. That's where you begin this decision-making process. You look at what your top line is, meaning the revenue that's being generated. You subtract from that the cost of actually generating that revenue. That gets you to this net environment. That net environment is what you get to apply against all other expenses of the business. And when you're evaluating those expenses of the business, you should be evaluating them in terms of, one, is it directly revenue producing? Or two, is it revenue supporting? Because ultimately, that's where the decisions really come into play. Like if you have an expense that is neither revenue producing nor revenue supporting, you have to evaluate, is that expense even worthwhile for me to engage in? You have to say, okay, how does this contribute to the success of the business? And that's pretty much the very first area where you can see a profit loss taking place. When you're evaluating whether or not you need to address it, you have to evaluate it, well, is this a leak that it makes sense to continue to have? Or should we plug that leak? Making sure that that particular expense is no longer a component of how you're operating your business on a daily basis. Because again, just because you've invested something in the past or done something, whether that's in terms of time, focus, general energy and effort, or financial, just because you've done that in the past does not necessitate that you continue to do it in the future. Reevaluate every decision as it comes, because at the end of the day, you are the one who's in charge of retaining your profit. I wish you well in your journey. If you like this episode, be sure to hit that notification button, because you're not going to want to miss what comes next. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now. How'd that sound? Pretty good?
Really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll cut here.